Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast,
where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture.
We talk to producers all over the country,
From small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations.
Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades,
We hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs.
here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast. Here we are yet another week. I think this is episode 17, so far so good. I haven't failed miserably yet and neglected to post an episode. I appreciate everyone that's come on so far and those that are waiting for my response. I apologize if you have not heard from me. I have not deleted your information. I've not forgotten you. Just trying to get October's schedule of interviews set up. I've got a long list of people there that I really want to talk to. Just bear with me if you would. Updates on the farm, a little dry around here in central West Virginia. Been quite a few weeks, about 3 weeks since we've had any rain of any significance, which is kind of typical for this time of year for us in West Virginia. But we've had a lot of rainy season here lately. So leading up to this is kind of different for us to have dry now. We've gotten used to being wet all this time, so having this dry is a little odd. So I'm actually having to transport water for the pigs. First time I've had to do that in probably 4 years. So that is what it is. It's all part of it, and we still have plenty of water, obviously pulling from the wells. So it's not like it's an extra cost. It just makes me have to walk more and work more, which is something I need to do so I can lose some weight. So I hope you guys are getting rain that you need. If you're getting too much rain, I hope you get some dry coming soon that help dry out before the snow starts blowing if you're in that neck of the woods. Well, as with any podcast, as we grow and there's more demand and more time put into the podcast. Again, I'm trying to make this as polished as possible. And of course, there's costs associated with that. So we've started to take on some sponsors, and I hope you'll bear with us that this is kind of the nature of the business to some degree. But I promise you, I'm not going to sell out and do sponsors of just anybody. I'm going to try, if we're promoting a product, it's something we've tried out. It's something that we've used, and I wouldn't mind putting my name beside it. So one of those, the first one that we're going to run into is a company called Olight. And if you're like me on the farm, where you always need a good flashlight, you always need access to something after dark. And I have a drawer full of flashlights that are garbage. They're either rechargeable and their battery goes dead, or they're not rechargeable and I grab it and the batteries go dead halfway out because I haven't replaced them, haven't kept up with them, all that kind of stuff. Well, a company called Olight reached out to me and said, hey, you got to try these lights out. These things are great. And honestly, I'd never heard of them. And I've discovered after the fact that it's a pretty popular light brand when it comes to tactical lights and kind of higher end flashlights. They're a little expensive, but after getting some and trying them out, man, I definitely see why. So there's one in particular, what's called the S1R Baton 2 Desert Tan. Desert Tan is a limited edition right now. That's kind of what they're promoting right now. They sent me one. I tried it out, and probably the best example I could give is the other night, kind of walking out after dark. I heard some coyotes in the valley, and I thought, man, they're a little close. I think they're within my pig fence area. Normally they don't cross the electric. That sounded like they were. So, and normally I grab a light and shine it out there and see. Okay, well, I can see two eyes. Are those coyote eyes, or is that something else, or whatever? Raccoon. Yeah, that's usually what I'm used to seeing. Is just a little glows coming back. But so I grabbed this SR1, which, mind you, is about the size of my thumb. And I don't have huge thumbs. It's about the size of my thumb, and I hit that thing and put it in what they call turbo mode or super bright mode, and I lit up the entire valley. I was really impressed with how well that works. Great battery life, neat charger. My favorite thing is this has a clip, so actually when I'm up at the camp, our off-grid camp, I clip it onto my hat. I always wear a ball cap, so I clip it onto my hat, and it becomes a headlamp. When I don't need it as a headlamp, drop it right back in my pocket. It literally is about the size of a pocket knife, so it doesn't bother me to carry around in my pocket. Well, enough of that. If you want to check that out, I'm going to post a link in the show description there. We do have an offer code RTH9, and I'll put those details there to give you 10% off anything in the store. There's a whole bunch of different lights. I now have about 7 of these lights. I've really fallen in love with them, so we may talk about them a little bit more. Okay, so on to our interviewer, and I love talking to you guys all across the country. I'm anxious to talk to some people outside of the country, looking at some people in Australia possibly to talk to. But every once in a while you get a rare treat, and that's to talk to a fellow West Virginian. There's, we're a decently sized state as far as geography goes, but we're only 1.8 million people total in the state. And most people leave West Virginia. It's not like we have an influx of people coming in. Most people leave to find work and to find better opportunities, I guess. But this time I got to speak with a fellow West Virginian, and his name is Doug Downs, and he's in northern West Virginia, up in the area of Morgantown, home of the Mountaineers. He has a farm called Spoondle Farms. And I'll let him just explain why his farm name is called Spoondle. But it's pretty interesting. So it's exciting to talk to a local West Virginian, and I'm hoping to talk more with Doug and be able to maybe even meet up with him and a couple other pig farmers I know here in the state, so we can maybe share some stories in person. Well, without any further ado, I'm going to jump right in and let Doug tell a story. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. I'm excited tonight, and I know I say that every single time. I'm an excited person. But tonight, I get to have a fellow mountaineer on the podcast with us. So we West Virginians, there's not many of us that stick around in the state. We all seem to go everywhere else. But it's great to be able to talk to a fellow West Virginian about pastured pigs. So tonight, I have Doug Downs with Spoondle Farms. Welcome, Doug.
Howdy, Troy.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and talk and explain some of what you've got going on there. So, first of all, where are you? Where is Spoondle Farms?
We are up. Well, Troy, let me start by thanking you, sir. I've really appreciated your videos and your podcast. So I'm glad to be on it. I'm glad to help you with the content, and I want you to keep it up for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Well, right now where I am is in the backfield, climbing up out of the trees after I got a little bit of fencing done. So give me a second to catch my breath here. It's a nice evening in Morgantown, West Virginia.
That's what I like about A, technology, but B, that not a lot of pastured pig farmers that just sit around and wait to have interviews and that type of stuff. We still got to get work done. So
exactly. I was trying to get the chores and get the pigs fed before we got the talk in. So I got the old 3M Workmate Bluetooths on, and that's how I go about most of my day for sure.
That's right. That works. Okay, so Morgantown, West Virginia, which for those of you who aren't intimately familiar with the West Virginia geography, that is in the northern part of the state and home of the Mountaineers, Mountaineer football, which appears to be the only football in the state right now. Of course, I guess last week it wasn't much to talk about.
No. No.
Okay, well, that's a whole nother podcast and discussion. So in the Morgantown area, obviously the next obvious question I think a lot of people will be asking is, what the heck is a spoondle, and why is it on your farm?
Spoondle Farms. About 14 years ago, my wife and I had been dating for a while. We were living in the Canaan Valley area. I was a rock climbing guide at Seneca Rocks, and a lady at the pizza shop there gave me the nickname Doodle. I didn't think much about it. I figured if I didn't make a big deal about it, nobody would call me that. Well, all my buddies caught wind, and for the last 14 years or so now, I have been Doodle. My wife's nickname is Spoon, and so when we finally were a couple, we were had the mashup name of Spoondle, and when we bought the farm about 6 years ago, we had decided we were going to call it Spoondle. So, Spoondle is the Spoon and Doodle Farm.
That's excellent. I like it. I love a good backstory to a name. Not too many times you hear somebody just say, well, I just pulled something randomly out of the air. But it's good to hear the backstory.
Yeah, well, it's, the farm means a lot to us. And just putting our names on it like that, to me and her, I think it's one of the things that keeps us it keeps us working together. Every day we come home to a nice sign that says Spoondle Farms, and as soon as we pull up that driveway, we're reminded who we are working together.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so man, obviously as a West Virginian, there's all kinds of things that pop into my mind, but I'm forcing myself to stay focused on pigs here.
Yes, Troy, I do raise hogs on a hill.
Yeah, no doubt, exactly.
The West Virginia way. So.
Absolutely, that's right. I think our pigs have 2 legs longer than the other 2.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about your pig operation here. So kind of give me the 40,000 foot elevation, your farm layout, setup, breed choice, that type of stuff.
Sure. We are, so I would consider us to be a homestead style, a hobby style farm. Our main goal really is to support an adventure, to something to keep me busy, I guess. And it started with the idea of we were going to raise a few chickens, of course, and we were going to then, friends of mine have been raising some hogs, and I've been helping him, and we loved it. And as we moved up to the Morgantown area, Morgantown had become pretty big inside the city. We decided to look outside. We found this 16 acres of hillside and a little home, and it wasn't too far away from Morgantown. And we, started with the idea that we were going to raise a couple hogs in the back, and then a couple hogs. It's, in my mind, just as easy to feed 5 as it is to feed 2. It's as easy to feed 10 as it is to feed 5. And 20 is about where I'm drawing the line anymore. So for a homestead style farm, we like to raise about 20 hogs a year. And we lay it out in the back, probably about the back 6 acres is what we're using now. We have it cut up into a few different paddocks, and we're always expanding. It's a lot of hillside and mixed with a good wood line. We do have massing trees, the hickory trees and whatnot, but we use the coolness of the forest for the hogs in the summer, and then the pastures, of course, are just a great supplemental feed for them.
Yeah, excellent. So, wow. So, that's the thing about, for all the things we could complain about West Virginia topography, the Appalachian hardwood forest we have access to is just incredible for pigs.
Yes.
Yeah, might have been vacuum cleaners in the woods here the past couple months with the acorns. Acorns came on really good this year, and the hickory's looking really good this year too.
The hickories are great for sure this year.
Excellent. So what breed choice are you going with? Do you pick mutts? Do you have a choice?
Well, we've definitely gone through the gamut. We started out. I've had my learning experiences. We had a few mule foots to start. They were great fun pigs for our first pigs. I overfed them, and I ended up with a really lardy round hog. I remember the first butcher we had, basically, I told him to give me the back fat and off of a couple pigs, and it was a trash bag. Yeah. But through that, I did learn about the beauty of good pig fat. I wanted to put it all to use. We've rendered lard, and this was maybe 6 years ago, and I still have jars of lard from that fat that are hidden away in the fridge or the freezer, and we keep pulling them out. So then we moved from the mule foots. I wanted a much better a better mix of a pig, a leaner pig, but still something that had a good marbling, that did well on pasture. I was doing my research, and while there's just so many good pigs out there, there weren't a ton available close for us here in West Virginia. So what I did was I drove out to the Shepherdstown area, and I bought, a gentleman had been breeding Durocs and red wattles for quite many years out there. And I picked up a 8 or 10 that year. I brought them back and raised them up, and they were everything I wanted, perfect. So I decided I was going to keep 2 nice sows that we still have, and we mixed them with a Berkshire. So we had a Berkshire Red Rock cross. It's a mutt-like pig, but you get your pretty traditional mixes of those breeds. It's a good dark meat. It's still a lean enough pig that when it goes to market, the butcher's impressed by its fat to meat ratio. They grow well. They do really well on pasture and in our environment. Then this year, we also took on, we didn't farrow this last winter. We wanted to take on some different, take the winter off, and we wanted to take on a few different hogs. So I was able to get some GOS mixes from down in the Fayetteville area from a good friend of mine. And I was also able to get a Tamworth large black cross out of Ohio, both off of pastured pig farmers. And both of those we've been running this year are just doing exceptionally well. They're fun pigs. They got all of them got the good floppy ears, and they seem to be gaining just fine over here at Spoondle Farms.
All right. Would your Fayetteville connection be Mr. Stover by chance?
No.
Okay.
Josh. No, Josh runs those. Josh runs those Wessex, and he's been holding on to those. I'm gonna add him to get some eventually when he's ready to start sharing.
Gotcha.
But I got Steve West and down in Fayetteville, a good friend, and Paul Harper over with Woodland in Ohio was able to turn me on to some good pigs. Two guys that you should probably talk to as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, good. So, so where are you with that breed lineup right now? Are you close to finishing?
We do. We just run a batch a year, so we look at trying to start to finish. When we farrow to finish, we look at about 10 months. Since I got a little jump start by having some of those guys get the weaners ready for me, we're gonna look at trying to get them out of here by the middle of November. Most of them I have some up in the over 200 plusers, and then a few just tagging right behind at 200. We like to take our pigs to right around 300. That gives us 100 on a half hanging weight. It makes the math easy for everybody, and we find that it just is when the carcass quality really starts to get the best, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Well, all right. So you talked about your pasture, and you said something I'd like to come back to. You had mentioned that kind of a hobby farmer, I'd say gentleman farmer, some terms that have been kicked around for years. But why that model? Why do you see in the near future, or do you think you're going to stay at that point? Do you say, hey, this is something we're just going to keep ramping up production? Or you kind of mentioned you're kind of hanging here. What's the objective?
Oh, well, Troy, you know as well as I do that farming is a lot of work. And it's not always, while we do everything we can to show a profit here, I like to shoot the goal of getting my hobby to pay for itself at the moment, which it does. But we put a lot, and that's especially if we don't really pay ourselves a wage. My wife and I both work full-time jobs. She is, she's in town every day working at the local hospital, and I am a paramedic. I work 2 24-hour shifts a week, which allows me 5 days on the farm. Yes, those 24-hour shifts aren't quite as easy as they sound.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's got to be some sleep in there somewhere.
We try and get it there, but it affords me time to be out here building and growing my farm. At the moment, we're very happy where we are, working to learn more and more about pastured pig, raising better pigs. The real place that we're looking to head is actually a smaller model craft charcuterie line. Me and a friend have been very interested in the techniques of curing and preserving pig, making those great cuts of meat, the copas, the specks, the salamis, the pepperonis, and having access to high quality pig is one of the things that we're doing this for. It's not as easy it's easier now, but when we started, it wasn't really that easy to just turn the corner and find a high quality pig up here in Morgantown. So, or even in just, in a lot of parts of West Virginia. And as you know as well as I do, that raising your own pigs out on ground, it's just going to be superb compared to your commodity style pigs. So we got started a lot with the idea that we were going to continue to push forward, and as we get a little older, we get a little more invested in it, I can see us, a buddy of mine and I working towards a nice little charcuterie joint, hopefully in one of those really nice mountain towns of West Virginia.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, there's there's a whole podcast discussion there as far as, what does that look like and what hurdles do you have to overcome. But yeah, I like that. I think anytime you can specialize and value add a product that.
Oh yes, it's pretty obvious, and I always tease that we're working towards baconing the whole hog, which is what everybody wants. So
That's right.
we're gonna give it our best to try and get there.
Exactly. Get top dollar for every cut. I like it.
Oh, that's the idea.
Well, okay, so you talk about the full-time job and some of the details there. So have you found that there's issues with that balance, especially with both of you working off farm? I mean, how does that work when
No, not at all. The farm is, a lot of the labor falls on me to get a lot of the infrastructure work done, do a lot of the veterinary, do a lot of the planning, the feed sourcing, the overall direction in which we go. My wife is incredible in helping, not only just encourage the farming, not saying no, not trying to limit us, seeing that this is something I'm passionate about. And so she urges me to keep doing it. But she's also great if I have to get up, or if I'm late, or on those 2 days a week that I'm not available, or if I need to go out of town for some reason. She's up there in her overalls and her muck boots. She's getting the feed out to the animals. She's down in the goat pen, checking all of our critters down there, feeding the chickens and collecting the eggs. So we work together as a team, and it seems to make every day achievable without ever putting too much burden on one of us to have to worry about who's going to be able to take care of our animals in the day.
Well, that's great. And that's so key. I mean, there's so much discussion to be had about teamwork on the farm, especially with our all-farm jobs, and getting everybody on the same page. If not everybody's behind it, then it makes things a little difficult and makes things a little tumultuous at times. We have teenagers, and sometimes they don't see the vision that I see on the farm. So sometimes we have to work to convince them of why this vision is important.
I guarantee you, years from now, they're going to look back and remember it more fondly than they did at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. My oldest has always said he wanted to be a city boy, and we spent a couple of weeks. We spent some time in New York City, and he said, "Dad, nice place to visit, but I don't want to live there." So, there we go. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that with having help. I just realized I had to, as we're talking, I had to text my wife and ask her to go out and feed the sows because I had meetings this morning and wasn't able to feed them. So anyway.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a good balance. It's nice to have that help there, and again, everyone has the same, at least the same overall vision. So
yes,
with that on your farm, you all are not a polyculture or not a monoculture, right? There's other animals that you have on the farm.
Yes, we and since we're a hobby farm, none of these other animals really are for profit. I will say, we raise chickens, of course. That's where we started. The fresh eggs are unbelievable. We've had a excellent group of chickens for the last 6 years or so, and I don't think I've bought a chicken in quite a while. We have hens that do their best to raise really, really smart birds, and we just continue the lineage. We don't sell eggs. We found that the going rate for them, or searching out the clientele for raising 30 chickens, really isn't worth the effort of daily scrubbing, checking the eggs. We collect what we want, we eat what we want, the rest get fed up to the hogs. We also raise some goats, more as we call them the petting zoo. We keep them down in the front pasture, so as you drive past the farm, people love them. We have little dwarf Nigerians that we took on from a friend. We were supposed to watch them for about 3 weeks. That was 3 years ago.
That's right.
And then in the midst of all of that, we ended up rescuing 2 potbelly pigs from situations in which they needed to be removed from the area they were at. Through a few nice people, we were able to get them relocated to our farm. And I'm just a sucker for taking care of animals, I guess, because we have Spork and Tink, 2 tiny little permanent pet pigs that live with the goats full time. And when people come over, and some of our customers, if they have kids, they like to see the sows, they like to see the pigs, but they can't always get in and pet them or interact with them in the same way as when a 50-pound large, tusked little black boar comes up to you and wants nothing but pets, the kids really light up. And I find that the goats and the pigs, they do their best in media coverage and welcoming. They actually do a good job of selling pork for us.
Exactly. Everybody needs a good PR man, and it sounds like you've got
Oh,
one.
yeah. It's we've got quite a few. We've got quite a few for sure.
Well, excellent. So, what about what challenges have you run into so far with raising pigs? What would be maybe your biggest challenge you've experienced?
Well, optimism and positivity are something that every pastured pig, every small farmer is going to have to take on, even in times when it's tough. I've had years where I thought for sure we'll be in the hole. How am I going to sell 3 pigs in the next 3 weeks? And for somehow, if I stay positive, keep feeding them, keep getting the word out, it all comes around for you. So I'd say staying positive when when you get shocked in the morning and then the pigs get, muddy and run you over on the way in, and then you realize you're almost out of feed, and then the trucks need the tire changed. That day, taking that positivity and just pushing forward is definitely one of the challenges that I have to overcome myself.
I like that.
Yeah. It's, I learn every day farming. I grew up in the suburbs. I wasn't, I was always an outdoor kid, always loved the outdoors, but farming, who would have guessed 2 kids from the suburbs would be running a pastured pig operation in their 40s. But so I'm learning every day on the go. I'm learning about my fencing, inventing watering tanks, or doing the research, putting the hours in. But I'd say just staying optimistic is really the biggest hurdle that myself and anyone else could need to overcome.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Attitude is so much. You can, if you've got unlimited resources, which most of us don't, people throw a lot of money at stuff. But if your attitude isn't right, then you're really just spinning your wheels and wasting a lot of time, and it can get discouraging. And I think that's why we find some people are hot and heavy one day, really pushing hard, and the next thing you know, bang, they're done. They've gotten rid of everything.
Yeah.
They're just done because of burnout.
Exactly, and it turns into a job, and it's I'm allowed to say hobby farmer or homestead farmer. Because it's not. It is a job. It is a lot of work, but it's not my job. And the day it turns into my job is probably the day that it'll be time to really reevaluate things. So we try and stay positive. We try and keep enjoying it. If we're not enjoying it, it'll be time to move on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For so many people, it seems like I talk to people weekly that say, "Hey, we're just getting started. We just decided to do this, and we what's your advice?" All that type of thing. And of course, I always say, start small, grow into it.
Exactly.
And then don't necessarily. We've interviewed some great people that have turned this into a huge operation for themselves and been quite successful. But that's not, to me, not how you measure success with raising pastured hogs. It is, go at the speed that you want, but you don't have to be a huge operation, quit your day job, and be a full-time pig farmer to say, I have a successful operation. I think you're showing a perfect example there of trying to specialize and actually downsize in the number of hogs, but specialize in the services you offer.
Exactly. If I had more land, maybe we would think, expanding, but the more we expand, the more time I need to put towards it, and that takes away from some of the other stuff. So I agree with your statement. Tell everyone to start small. Make sure you're loving it every year as you put another, foot forward, as you put more money into your infrastructure, or you reevaluate constantly. Is this the choice that you want to stick with? Because raising hogs well is a commitment, and it's just not here's a quick batch of broiler chickens. It's a good long commitment to keeping animals, keeping them healthy and happy, and raising them with quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about your finishing operation. So when it comes time to finish, obviously, hopefully you're doing this prior to, but how are you currently marketing your hogs to your potential customers?
Well, we do anywhere between about 15 to 20 hogs a year. We sell right around 4 roasters in the early springtime. Then we have, usually about 10 to 12 wholes and halves that we sell. to individuals that we know through life, through work, through family, through word of mouth. We've had some excellent friends who have been ordering pigs from us for years from the beginning, who are constantly, feeding friends at dinners or talking up our pig or the quality of our meat or just the care we put into our operation. So selling pigs isn't, for us, has become, it's not as hard as maybe it once was. Another thing we do is a retail cut. So we take all our hogs, we have them processed into the major cuts. We prefer the real thick pork chops, the bacon, a lot of sausages, and some hams. We work with a very wonderful family USDA butcher about an hour away from us. We've been with them. Yeah, we've been with them since they started up. So we've been very fortunate to have a close butcher that we trust. She will call me if she starts getting busy in the spring to remind me to schedule my hogs.
Yeah.
She knows I'm going to be raising hogs every year. She wants to make sure I get in. She's not going to overlook her supporters, so she pays attention. They're farmers as well, and they do a great job with treating my animals well from the time I drop them off and seeing them all the way through the process. But because we have a USDA processor so close, and we're able to get our cuts processed and USDA stamped, in West Virginia, we are allowed to pay a $5 yearly freezer sale permit fee, and they send a individual around from the ag department, and he inspects you're allowed to sell out of your home as long as you have a freezer that is obviously in working condition, and it is clean and has only USDA stamped meat in it, and has a shelf next to it or somewhere so you don't have to put the meat on the ground. I always thought that was a kind of funny clause in there. But they come around, they give you the certification, you pay your $5 every year, and you legally can sell your USDA right out of your home. So we like to put together $100 bags. We don't sell a lot of, per pound pork. We put together these $100 bags, and we find that they sell the best for us. So that's a little bit of how we put it together to sell it. I find that makes a lot of it easier. But the biggest way we keep people informed is we run a Facebook group called the Spoondle Farms group. And when we started it, the idea was we were going to have a small group instead of a business page. Having a group allows us a little bit more management over it. It allows us to be a business, to alert people to what's going on, but it allows us to sell our lifestyle, to highlight not just the pigs, but the whole farm and the whole way in which we go about caring for raising these animals and giving them back to our supporters.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and I'll link below. I'll link below. I always say that.
Sure, and it's a group, Troy. So people feel free to go on, look at it. We do have a business page, but I really don't use it very much. I've just found that when I was using it, Facebook was all up in my business. Running the group, they just leave me alone, thinking it's a regular group. So if you go to Spoondle Farms group and you ask to join, my wife and I will look you over, and if you're one of our pastured pig buddies, we're more than happy to put you on there and let you join in the Spoondle Farms fun.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's go back, if you don't mind, and talk about your processor a little bit first. Out of personally selfish intentions, is your processor south of you or north of you?
No, they're and I'll give them. I'm not afraid to mention their name. It's Working H Meats over in Friendsville, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
So it's right over by the Deep Creek area.
Yep.
It's just in Morgantown, we've got the intersection of 79 and 68. We are in a small town called Pentras, just about 13 miles to the west of Morgantown. So a quick hop out the road. We jump on the highway and we trailer the pigs over, and then a quick jump off the highway and up the hill, and we're at Working H Meats. They they're just so if you would imagine, the Deep Creek area, we'll call it the eastern panhandle of West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you go, just a little bit north of there, you're fortunate enough to run into working age meats.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great, and that is in West Virginia, of course, that is that's nice to have something that close, because we lost our last USDA processor here locally in Central West Virginia that I'm aware of.
But is Buzz still working towards it? I know some of my boys down there are excited, thinking that Buzz Foods might get a USDA facility for you.
There's a lot of discussion going on about that, and even a location that I've heard is where they're going in, and I've driven by that location several times, and I haven't seen anything yet. So I'm hoping that turns into something. Mm-hmm.
Well, I won't rub it in that I have two other USDA processors just, another hour to the north either. I just haven't need to use them because I've been so pleased with my current butcher.
Yeah, we've got a great processor just across the river in Ohio, but I've been trying to convince them to go USDA, but they will not.
It's a lot of hoops for them to jump through, and you can't blame them. But we definitely need more USDA processors available for these smaller farms. It would make things a lot easier for everyone.
It would, yeah, and I would agree. Either more USDA or relax on some of these ridiculous restrictions that they have in play. But that's a whole nother discussion. All right.
Yeah, we could probably talk that one blue in the face for sure.
Yeah. Well, we won't dive into this too deeply because I know this is something that you're still kind of putting together. But let's talk a little bit about these specialty cut areas that you want to get into. So, are you practicing at home with some of your own pork on some of these?
Yes. Daily, where I'm doing something of learning, experimenting. A lot of this value added as far as charcuterie goes is it's understanding a good bit of the science. It's trusting in the proven techniques from the old world. It's about expanding your mind, and a lot of it's about patience and time as well. You'll look at some of these classic prosciuttos, the big hanging ham, and you're seeing years invested in the aging of these hams. So I'm currently working with some of our pork from last year, getting it ready for Christmas time. So it's September now, and we're starting to put together some salamis, and we have some copas in the smokehouse right now that have cured, but we're going to smoke them and then get them drying here. So hopefully come right around Christmas time, when the family's getting together, we'll be able to break out some of these Spoondle Farm products. Unfortunately, we can't sell any. Right. We're trying to stick to that idea. It's a very, it's a food safety issue. It's a liability issue. We do everything we practice with food safe techniques, and we trust in our food completely. But I'm not gonna risk the farm on selling a little bit of home cured meats or violating any of the state or federal laws just to get an extra buck here or there.
Right.
But I'll gladly cut you off a slice. We'll gladly, any party we go to, we'll put together a plate. On Spoondle Farms group, you'll always see us putting together charcuterie plates to take to parties, or even if just friends come over.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's a great testimony right there too, as people try that. So I'm just curious. So when you're practicing on this on farm, are you getting fresh butchered pork back from the processor? Are you processing on farm? So are you doing butchering?
Yeah. My buddy and I have definitely done the home processing. Yeah, I think everyone who raises pigs in this matter, has to pay a homage and home butcher at least one pig. Exactly. The anxiety before the kill, the worriness, the excitement, the grossness to the greatness. It's all a procedure that needs to be understood. You don't have to do it all the time. We found that we weren't while we were able to accomplish our end goals, it wasn't necessarily our favorite thing.
Yeah.
We will take pigs to the processor. If we want to break them up ourselves, we will have them, they do a scald and scrape up to about 400 pounds.
Really?
So it's nothing for us to get 100-pound halves back from our, in full condition. And my friend and I will break them down if we want to do shear a whole hog. Or a lot of times I'll just have my butcher, cut the ham up, and then I'll thaw it and cut it into seam it into the roasts and make the smaller hams.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely fresh meat. As you get into the intricacies of it, people will talk about the importance of a fresh green ham. But when you have such high quality meat, I don't mind working with frozen meat that's 6 months old. I'm just doing my best all the time, and if that's what I got, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop my process just because it's frozen, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because we've been exploring in very similar ways on Red Tool House. We've been exploring some of those on our own and saying, okay, well, let's take something that was flash frozen by our processor, and let's thaw it out and let's play with it. And it could be something as simple as coming up with a new sausage blend or trying some different techniques there. But yeah, I agree that I think we're dealing with the quality of pork that you may have, if you could chart it on a graph, you may have a little degrade in flavor and texture and some of those things, but I think it still stays very high compared to a commercial production.
Oh, definitely. I think if you're working, if you're fortunate enough to raise your pigs to be able to work your own charcuterie, you're always going to be leaps and bounds ahead of the commercial grade charcuterie or somebody who's looking at it from using a commodity pig as a necessity procedure. So we're very fortunate. All of us should consider our blessings when we get to cook up our own bacon at home and realize not only is it good because it grew in the backyard, but it's great because it's raised well.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. So, Doug, what looking at the future of Spoondle Farms, what do you see moving forward? What's on the horizon, either near goals or long-term goals?
Well, we're gonna get these hogs off this year. We're gonna evaluate what our goals are for next year and see what our market is looking like. I need to take a look. Feed's gone up a little bit for me, so I need to take a look and see and poll some people and see what kind of price increase we can support. We might possibly, by the time the crunch numbers come down, go to a 5-pig operation, or we might put the bore on with our 3 sows and actually put a 4th in and see if we can't get 40 hogs to split between my farm and another farm. So we just kind of got to look and see where we're going to go. It's one of the big benefits of having a hobby-based farm. We're not held to quite the same clutches as somebody really grinding out their living with it. Total respect to anybody who can do that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Again, I know we've talked about this already, and I don't want to beat that drum, but it's so important. I know people get excited about this. They may have success the first year, and they say, okay, I'm going to go out, and I'm either going to drain my savings, or I'm going to go ahead and get a small business loan, and I'm going to invest X in this. And then you find that obviously the market changes, but also it kind of takes the fun out of it sometimes. You say, okay, I got to go out and do this to make a bank payment, to get money back in the account. This is something I have to do, versus saying, hey, I want to just cool off a little bit this time or try something different.
Definitely. So. And as far as next year, I definitely I owe my wife a honeymoon.
All right.
I know it was 10 years together, 6 years of marriage, and she's helped support me through everything, and I still owe her a honeymoon. So part of the recall for what's happening next year is a honeymoon.
Exactly. And
now that I've said it, she's going to hear this and hold me to it. So.
That's right. Yes, this is being recorded, so this is audio evidence. Yeah, it's funny you say that. Our 25th is coming up next summer, and it's got to be it's got to be something. It's got to be something better than what it's been. So,
Yeah.
so we'll see how that goes
Yes,
too.
I know. Not only do you owe it to her, you owe it to yourself, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Doug, one thing I ask everyone on the podcast, and you'll be no different here, is what is your favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
Well, I think that's becoming your catchphrase there, Troy. I know it's a great question to ask at the end, and fortunately, I've gotten an opportunity to listen to your podcast and listen to what everyone says, and I'll get right in line with them. So many great answers, and a lot of people stating the obvious, that spending the time with the animals, being out here, having a purpose to get up, to go feed, and then noticing the small intricacies, the personalities of the animals, watching them grow, interacting. That, of course, is going to be a great driver for me, and one of my favorite things. Providing quality meat, quality food to my friends and family, and being part of a movement that is looking towards ethically raising animals, not just ethically feeding them, but giving them the space to run, giving them the nature and the herd to interact, and not just stall floor, concrete floor, or feeding in the stall, or small pen is another thing I like. But one of my favorite things, Troy, is I feel like it gives me a bit of identity. Since I've been a little kid, I felt like if I could identify myself with something, if I could take my passion and wear it on my shirt and be proud of it, it's something that would help direct me honestly forward. So as a young man, I was interested in skateboarding, and that's what I was, a skater. And then I grew into fly fishing, and you knew that was the guy that was always fishing, always fly fishing. And then, as I hit my teens and my 20s, I was very engrossed and very passionate about rock climbing. I worked as a climbing guide at Seneca Rocks for many years, traveled all over the world, climbing in Asia, climbing in all through the United States, and that was my identity. As I matured past that, and slowly as we built this farm, I love it when somebody who doesn't know my name looks at me and says, "You're the guy with the pigs."
Yeah.
Or you're introduced at a party or anywhere by a good friend who says, "This is Doug. That's, the meat is all his. He makes the best meat." You get every meat joke in the world pointed at you, and you just love it. So
exactly. I
feel like having this farm, while I don't let it own me, I think it helps define me, and I get to wear it proudly.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's a great answer. That's probably the best answer we've had so far. Very, very deep.
Well, I have had time to think about it. All right, all these great people, all these great podcasts before me. I've kind of had the opportunity to think on it. So.
Well, and you make a good point there, and I would definitely agree with that. There is a welling of pride, and obviously we're not supposed to be prideful, but there is a welling of pride when somebody points out to you that, or sees you and says, "Hey, you're that guy. You're this. I appreciate X. Whatever those efforts are, I appreciate that." And then, especially when it comes to raising animals and producing meat, if somebody says, "Oh, so and so shared your bacon with me the other day. That's unbelievable. That's the best bacon I've ever had." All those type of things, and it really does. It's one of those things that you can kind of check a box and say, "Wow, okay, that's nice. I really like that. I like how I feel when I get that interaction."
I know, and we, through the power of social media, we're able to do a great job highlighting, not just our, what we feed our hogs or where they're raised, or here's a picture of our pigs, but we get to share our daily thoughts, our hardships, show everything. And, you're always surprised when people come around and they say, "Wow, I've been watching your stuff." You might only had 20 or 30 likes on that social media thing, and you thought that's great. Some people follow my stuff. But behind that, there's definitely a lot of people that are taking the time to look at your stuff, and they bring it up with you, and they express such excitement in what you're doing, thinking it's brave, it's something else, just to live a little bit outside the box. So I do enjoy being able to to be happy about my farm, invite people out to my farm, and share my learnings with other people.
Excellent. All right. Well, very good. Well, Doug, I really appreciate your time. I know we talked about kind of keeping this within a time range there, and we'll honor that so you can continue your evening and get some stuff done before the sun goes down. So I am going to post in our show notes the link to Doug's Spoondle Farms group. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to do so. Any other media contacts you have there, Doug?
That's just about what we're using right now. So you can look. We have Spoondle Farms has a business page. It's got a phone number on there if you needed to get a hold of me. But for the most part, just go to Spoondle Farms group, or you can always private message me on Facebook. Just Douglas Downs. You'll see a guy standing there with his pigs. It's pretty easy. So
excellent.
Anything anyone needs, just let me know, and I'll be more than to do my best to help out. Before we go, Troy, I just want to do a little West Virginia pride here, and say there's a lot of really good farmers in the state of West Virginia.
Yes. And
we're a small state. Sometimes we end up the butt of a few jokes. We have some issues here and there that don't get always the best light, but there's a lot of great people here, and there's a lot of great people raising pigs out in West Virginia now. So as you go around here, I'll encourage some of the guys I know to give you a call up and just get on the record, letting everyone know that we're raising pigs and we're raising them well here in West Virginia.
Absolutely. Good. Well said. Yeah, I agree. I've lived 43 of the 46 years of my life in West Virginia, and the 3 years I was in Florida, I really missed it and wanted to come back home. So I agree. There's nothing quite like West Virginia. It is a beautiful state.
Excellent.
Well, Doug, we appreciate your time, and pray you have a good evening, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
No problem, Troy. When you need someone to interview you, let me know. I'll ask the questions you can answer.
There you go. All right. Well, take care, Doug. Have a good evening. Well, all right. Well, I really appreciate Doug and coming on, and I really liked his story there. Yeah, even with the crazy farm name, that's pretty cool. So hoping that Doug, if you're listening to this, hopefully we can get some meetup time with some of the other guys here in Central West Virginia and see if we can move pastured pigs further in the state. Well, if you guys, if you know anyone that you would like to have on the podcast, you'd like to hear from, I've had some really good requests. We've got, I think we've got an author coming up, Kathy Payne, who has written about the American guinea hog. She's got a book out. We're going to be interviewing her in the next couple weeks, so look for that interview to come out in the next probably be a couple months from now, but anxious to get her on. So we're getting more and more people on. If there's anyone that you'd want to hear, or if you want to be topic specific, let me know. Just go to redtoolhouse.com, click on our Pastured Pig podcast link, and you can use that form there to make some suggestions of topics. If you haven't had a chance yet, if you would mind, give us a rating and a review, and that helps other people find us. I appreciate everybody listening and appreciate all the good feedback. All right, take care, everybody.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes,
visit redtoolhouse.com.